These are the final resting places of comedians who dedicated their lives to making the world laugh. Lenny Bruce was laid to rest after dying from a morphine overdose on August 3, 1966, at the age of 40. Found on the bathroom floor of his Hollywood Hills home, the comedian, who was arrested more times for obscenity than for any other offense, was buried at Eden Memorial Park in Mission Hills, California. During the final years of his life, he was simultaneously fighting obscenity charges in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Those legal battles steadily drained his finances, damaged his health, and limited his ability to perform as more venues refused to book him. In 2003, he was posthumously pardoned by New York Governor George Pataki, the first pardon of its kind in New York state history, coming 37 years after the state had helped bring about his downfall. Gene Wilder was cremated after dying from complications of Alzheimer's disease on August 29, 2016, at age 83 at his home in Stamford, Connecticut. His ashes were scattered in the backyard of the same property where he spent his final years, leaving no public grave to visit. He kept his Alzheimer's diagnosis private for 3 years, telling his nephew that he did not want children who knew him as Willy Wonka to see him diminished, a decision his family later described as completely in character. Within a span of just 4 years, he starred in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Young Frankenstein, and Blazing Saddles, a remarkable run of comic performances unmatched by most actors of his generation. Don Knotts was buried after passing away from pulmonary and respiratory complications on February 24, 2006, at age 81, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, the cemetery on Glendon Avenue that holds Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, and a remarkable collection of American entertainment history. The actor, best known for playing Deputy Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show, won 5 Emmy Awards for the role, more than any other performer has ever won for portraying a single character in a comedy series. He brought a nervous, tightly wound energy to Barney Fife that elevated the show far beyond what anyone expected. His grave at Westwood continues to attract fans who grew up watching Barney Fife and never entirely forgot him. Henny Youngman was buried after dying from pneumonia on February 24, 1998, at age 91. He was laid to rest at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Glendale, Queens, New York, the Jewish cemetery in the borough where he spent most of his life after arriving from London as an infant with his Russian Jewish family. The king of the one-liners, whose signature line, "Take my wife, please," became one of the most recognizable setups in comedy history, performed in Catskill resorts, nightclubs, and television variety programs for more than 60 years. He rarely discarded a joke that still earned a laugh. Just 2 weeks before his death, he was still performing at Carnegie Hall, a fact that could easily have served as the punchline to one of his own routines. Buddy Hackett was buried after dying from natural causes on June 30, 2003, at age 78. He was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, the same cemetery where fellow Borscht Belt comedian Don Knotts would later be buried 3 years afterward. The Brooklyn-born comedian became one of Las Vegas's most beloved headliners for 4 decades, and appeared in films such as The Music Man and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. His stand-up was known for its improvisational style and his willingness to push the boundaries of taste, making much of his material difficult to fully adapt for television. As a result, some of his most celebrated performances existed only in the rooms where audiences experienced them firsthand. His grave at Westwood rests among the generation of comedians who influenced him and the many performers he inspired in return. Sid Caesar was cremated after dying from heart failure on February 12, 2014, at age 91 at his home in Beverly Hills, California, with no public interment site established. The comedian who headlined Your Show of Shows and Caesar's Hour during the 1950s was at the center of what many critics considered the greatest concentration of comedy talent ever assembled on weekly television. His writing staff included Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, Neil Simon, Woody Allen, and Larry Gelbart all at the same time. In later years, he largely stepped away from the spotlight that had nearly overwhelmed him through addiction and anxiety. His 1982 memoir offered one of the most candid accounts published by a comedian of his generation about the personal cost of life in show business. Sammy Davis Jr. was buried after dying from throat cancer on May 16, 1990, at age 64. He was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. The singer, dancer, comedian, and actor spent 5 decades performing at a level of technical brilliance that many of his peers, including Frank Sinatra, considered unmatched. While undergoing radiation treatment, he performed a farewell concert at the Shrine Auditorium. His voice weakened, but his stage presence still unmistakable. 3 months later, he died at his Beverly Hills home, with Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Jesse Jackson among those who mourned him. His grave at Forest Lawn rests among the memorials of Walt Disney, Clark Gable, and many of the defining figures of Hollywood's studio era. George Burns was buried after dying on March 9, 1996, at age 100, just 9 weeks after celebrating his 100th birthday. He was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, beside his wife and comedy partner, Gracie Allen, who had died 32 years earlier. The comedian who began performing in vaudeville as a child and later won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor at age 80 for The Sunshine Boys, shares the same crypt with Gracie, an arrangement he had planned for many years. To him, it was simply the final chapter of a partnership that had shaped his life more than anything else. He had even scheduled a performance at Caesar's Palace for his 100th birthday, an appearance he was forced to miss after suffering a fall in his bathtub only weeks before. W.C. Fields was buried after dying on Christmas Day in 1946 at age 66 from a gastric hemorrhage at a sanitarium in Pasadena, California. His death came on a holiday he often claimed to dislike. He was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Beginning his career as a vaudeville juggler before becoming a silent film star and later a master of sound comedy, Fields became famous for portraying delightfully dishonest and deeply cynical characters. In his will, he requested that no religious service be held, a wish that was fully respected by his family. His posthumously published autobiography and the many quotations attributed to him have kept his legacy alive long after his death. Bob Newhart was cremated after dying from a series of medical conditions on July 18, 2024, at age 94 at his home in Los Angeles. No public interment site has been established. The comedian first gained national attention through his 1960 album, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart, which spent 14 weeks at #1 and became the first comedy album ever to reach that position. He later starred in 2 landmark sitcoms separated by more than a decade, each helping define a different era of American television comedy. His understated delivery and unmatched command of the comic pause influenced generations of comedians, creating a style so distinctive that many performers working in understatement today are still drawing from his example. Mel Blanc was buried after dying from heart disease and emphysema on July 10, 1989, at age 81. He was laid to rest at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, where his grave bears the famous inscription, "That's all, folks." The phrase served as the closing line for countless Looney Tunes cartoons. Blanc provided the voices of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Tweety, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, and numerous other animated characters, often performing several of them within the same production. Following a near-fatal automobile accident in 1961, he spent 3 weeks in a coma and reportedly responded only when hospital staff addressed him as Bugs Bunny rather than Mel Blanc. It was a story he found far more amusing than alarming. Today, his grave remains one of the most photographed sights in Los Angeles. Richard Belzer was cremated after dying from natural causes on February 19, 2023, at age 78 at his home in Beausoulz, France, where he had spent his later years. No public interment site was established in the United States. The stand-up comedian became internationally recognized for portraying Detective John Munch on Homicide, Life on the Street, and Law and Order, SVU, playing the same character across 10 different television series in one of the longest-running character portrayals in television history. Before that success, he worked as a stand-up comic in the 1970s, developing a style that many audiences found both exceptionally intelligent and unusually confrontational. He later authored several books on political conspiracy theories, blending his comic persona with his personal interests in ways that amused some readers and unsettled others. Norm Macdonald was cremated after dying from leukemia on September 14, 2021, at age 61, having kept his cancer diagnosis private for 9 years. No public interment site was established. The Canadian comedian who anchored Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live from 1994 to 1997 became known for an anti-joke style that made him both deeply admired and occasionally divisive among comedy audiences. He chose not to tell almost anyone about his illness, a decision that made news of his death one of the year's biggest surprises. His final stand-up special, Nothing Special, was recorded alone in his living room during lockdown and released after his death, serving as a fitting final work from a comedian whose craft often relied on the gap between what was spoken and what was truly meant. Bob Saget was buried after dying from an accidental head injury on January 9, 2022, at age 65. He was found unresponsive in his room at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida, following a stand-up performance the previous evening. He was laid to rest at Mount Sinai Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. The comedian who spent 8 years portraying the wholesome Danny Tanner on Full House and another 8 hosting America's Funniest Home Videos maintained a private stand-up act that was far more explicit than his public image suggested. It was a contrast he never seemed particularly interested in explaining. Investigators concluded that he had likely struck his head and later gone to sleep without recognizing the seriousness of the injury. Dick Shawn was buried after dying on April 17, 1988, at age 63, when he collapsed on stage during a comedy performance at the University of California, San Diego. At first, members of the audience assumed it was part of the act, leaving the comedian motionless for several minutes before anyone realized something was wrong. He was laid to rest at Hillside Memorial Park in Los Angeles, California. Best known for playing Lorenzo St. Dubois in The Producers, alongside Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder, Shawn died in circumstances that perfectly reflected the confusion and unpredictability often found in his comedy. Passing away on stage in the middle of a monologue about the end of the world was the kind of event that seemed almost too unbelievable to be scripted. Dick Gregory was cremated after dying from heart failure on August 19, 2017, at age 84, at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital in Washington, D.C. No permanent